What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Next Level Teaching. I'm your host, Jeremy Anderson, here with my super dope co-hostess with the mostest, Miss Tori Rodriguez, a.k.a. T-Rod. What's up?
What's up, Jay?
How you feeling?
I'm good. It's beautiful outside.
Yes.
It's like sunny
Yeah.
and, it snowed yesterday. But
crazy, right?
I know.
Yeah.
So,
welcome to Atlanta where we get a little snow.
Yeah. and then the next day it's like beautiful and sunny, sunroof back.
I'll take it. I went ice skating for the first time today.
Stop.
Yeah, I was pretty nice.
How many times did you fall?
Twice.
That's it?
Yeah, that's it.
That's
I was only
impressive.
out there for about 30 minutes though. But yeah, twice.
But still, that's impressive.
Yeah, it was pretty nice.
Did Jewel go with you?
Yeah, she did.
Did she have one of the little walker things?
Yeah, she did. And then she thought it wasn't cool enough for her, so she wanted to ditch the walker.
Yeah.
And just rock with me. It was weird, but we had a good time.
Well, good.
I probably would have felt more. I just went out there and was very cautious, and I wasn't braggadocious. I just kept hearing the scripture: "Pride comes before the fall. Pride comes before the fall." You know what I'm saying? So I was very humble. You know what I'm saying? But it was good though.
Well, good. I'm glad.
Yeah, today's going to be great.
I know. I'm super excited.
Yep.
We got some music in the house, which we don't have often. So I'm excited because my best friend is a chorus teacher. And so I feel like the music side of education sometimes gets pushed to the side and not heard. So I'm excited to hear your side of it. And you've got all kinds of different levels of education that you've worked in. So we have Dr. Shaun Woodly here with us.
Yeah.
And
Mr. Teach, Hustle, Inspire himself.
Yes.
Y'all better get your merch, your hoodie, your sweatshirt.
It's fly. I like it. I'm excited.
We got yours over there too.
I know. I'm super excited.
We got you. Yep. So look, y'all, here at Next Level Teaching, before we even get into our guests, because we getting excited, we ready to run with it.
I know. I'm hopping in.
Yeah, look, we want you to laugh, learn, and live your best life. Right, so welcome. Thank you all for hanging out with us. We're going to talk about some things today, and we're going to help you go, not just take your classroom, but also your life to the next level.
Yeah, and I think that that's so important right now. It's not just looking at your classroom, but I think we've heard and seen so many memes about, teachers keeping up with their mental health right now.
Absolutely.
And making sure that you are taking time to rest and recharge for yourself. And at this point, I feel like a lot of teachers are like, okay, well, yeah, I'd like to do that. But is that realistic with time? But we really hope that in this time with the podcast, you guys, that you're able to actually find some of that and find some ways to just laugh right now and kind of get away from the craziness that education is right now.
Because it's here and it's crazy.
Yeah.
Shout out to the 46 countries that we in too. We appreciate the love.
And thank you for the love for leaving some ratings and those 5 stars, of course. We love those.
We need that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we need that for sure.
So thanks.
Yeah.
I do want to go ahead and hop on in.
Yeah, let's talk about it.
So Dr. Shaun Woodly, you have been in education for 15 years.
That is correct.
And in middle and elementary and now higher ed.
Correct.
And I love that, once again, I have someone that understands the middle school life with me.
8 years in.
And
Wow.
I'm on year 8 with middle school as well. And they're such a fun group. And you worked in music education, correct?
Music education, yes.
And then now you're a professor and you're actually in the education department within the university that you're working at.
Yep. I teach. Most of my students are aspiring or current educators.
That's great.
Yeah, and it's so dope to kind of just something that has been on my radar to do professionally once I kind of got in the game and saw what it was. And at the end of all of it, what I realized is that in the classroom, I wanted to have a bigger impact.
Yeah.
I kind of came at a crossroads as I was growing as an educator, and I was having success, and I was helping other educators in my building to be able to do the same, because while I was also a music educator, I was also in the building looking at leadership roles. So I was department chair. And that kind of schooled me to some stuff in the background, you know, that you kind of don't really see.
Yep.
And that was, you know what, maybe this principalship that I was thinking about, it's
Ain't
not for
me.
me. No, no.
I'm with you on that.
I was like, humble respect, but that's not my calling. And I kind of came to a point in my professional career where I wanted to do more, but I couldn't figure out how. And I remember to this day, it was August 2009. And you know how you do those back to school opening convocations.
Yeah.
And it was So 2008, 2009, I was coming off of a high year. Like I was in there, our department got state recognition for our performance.
Wow.
Like we, only school in the city to do that, only school probably, and we had kind of competed with a neighboring city. Nobody, like they usually do that, not us. So
Yeah.
I put us on the map, not, humble brag and everything,
Right,
but a little bit.
We just
But
feed
still.
facts here.
Yeah.
It's
It's
absolutely
true.
look at the data.
Yep,
Look at the
yep,
data.
yep.
So I was coming off of a high, and I was going into that year like, all right, this is going to be a good one. I think that I can really kind of just see what's the next level. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And so I go to this opening convocation, and there was a speaker there who was kind of just a dude that I had not seen before. Come to find out, he was a professor where I went to school, but I just didn't have him.
Right.
Yeah.
He lit a fire in me. Something that I said, all right, I was at these crossroads, and I need to figure out what is it that I can do that's next. I said, that's it right there. Because not only did I leave out of there and had an even better year going forward, so did a lot of other people.
Right.
And I said, that's the type of impact that I feel that I can bring. And and from that day, that was 11 years ago now, I did not stop.
Wow.
Did not stop until I got on that stage myself.
Facts.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's next level.
Yeah.
I love it.
And I love that you realize that education, like administration, wasn't for you, because that's something, in education, it's hard.
You was like, yeah, nah, I'm good.
Yeah,
You
and
can
that's
keep
the thing. In education, it's hard to move up without moving into some sort of like administrative type level. And I'm with you. That's not for me, because let's be honest, that's a lot of the paperwork, the bureaucracy, the parent phone calls. That's all the not so fun stuff.
Right.
And I'm like,
Just
no,
give me the
I'm good.
babies.
Yeah,
Just give me the kids.
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
But you wanted to make a bigger impact. And
Always
so
grateful, never settle.
Yes.
That's it.
And you decided that I can make an impact by affecting current and future teachers and helping them. So you said you work classroom management. Is that one of the classes that you teach?
I teach classroom management and student engagement.
Oh, the big two.
Yeah.
The big two right
Yes.
there.
Yes.
And that's the
Yeah.
thing, honestly.
You're going to have to teach us on some of that. Our
Yes.
audience needs some of that juice.
I got
Go
you.
ahead.
Honestly, I think that's something that we need to talk about. So I have a student teacher this year in my classroom with me. So someone like what you would have in your classes, honestly. And that is something that he's struggling with, is figuring out, especially in the midst of concurrent teaching, in the
Yeah.
midst of a pandemic, how do you keep students engaged? Because even for me, as a seasoned teacher, it's hard right now. Normally, I'm running around the classroom and standing on desks and blah, blah, blah. I can't do that socially distanced and being, behind a computer, because I have to be, because I'm concurrent. And then he's also struggling with classroom management. And I it's so interesting because and they both really work hand in hand. Let's be honest.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
You can't, if you don't have the classroom management, then you can't engage the students. But at the same time, if the students aren't engaged in what they're doing and they're bored, that's when they start acting a fool.
Right.
So often people can be surprised as to how student engagement will solve a lot of your other problems.
Yes.
Absolutely.
If you can capture a student's attention and do it in a way that feels authentic, that is managing your classroom right there. A lot of times what we'll do is we'll try and come in, like, for example, I grew up in New York and went through the education system that as a minority, and then did the same thing only on the other side as a minority. So I taught in the same type of school. So I'm saying I experienced that system from two different sides of my
Yeah.
life. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And once I got in there, especially on the educator side, I began to understand classroom management more. My mistake that when I made is when I first started teaching, I came in there with an iron fist. So for example, when I got hired, I started in 2006, but I started in October. I didn't start in the beginning of the year.
Oh, so they
The
already
reason the
had
position was
procedures.
available
Yep.
was because the person previously in that
Couldn't
role
handle
quit.
it. Yep.
They ran
couldn't
them
handle
out.
it.
Ran him
Yeah.
out.
Here
So
you come.
in my mind, I'm like, not me.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
I am not the one.
Yep.
Okay, so time
Don't
out.
try me.
Right. Not today. But before you go there,
Sure.
What? Because we believe here at Next Level Teaching that you got to be called to do this work and a little cuckoo.
Yeah.
So just tell us briefly, like, when did you know that you were called to be a teacher, and then take us into that first year, that first experience.
Okay, so here's how it happened. For me in high school, I was always a musician. Everything, I grew up in the church. I was the church drummer. Basically, you couldn't tell me that I wasn't going on tour with Bad Boy Records after I got out. Basically.
Right.
And then I got some solid advice when I enrolled in college. So I was excited. I got enrolled. I got accepted to Hampton University. I was like, yes, let's go. I'm going to learn and study music. And I got some solid advice from one of my music teachers at the time. And he said, there's nothing wrong with having dreams and hopes for yourself. He said, just give yourself an option just in case you don't get picked up to go on tour.
Just in case Diddy doesn't call you.
It might happen,
He's supposed to call you. He might forget.
Just in case he forgets. Just in case the phone lines are busy. We talking about the 90s. We didn't have phone waiting.
Facts.
You see what I'm saying?
Right.
So what if the phone is busy? So he said, give yourself something to fall back on. He said, study music, but also study education.
Right.
And so best advice that I got.
Yeah. Wow.
And so I walked on that campus to a rude awakening that, first of all, my skills aren't what I thought they were, because it was kind of one of those mindsets like, man, homie, back then you was the man, homie. Like, I was the man where I was from, but then you get to college and find out that everybody...
There's a whole bunch of men.
Right, and the man or the woman,
Yeah, big fish in a little pond, and then you get out to the ocean, you realize you ain't that big anymore.
No, not at all. And I'm talking about these dudes that I had the blessing to be around were nice. Like one of my boys to this day is on tour with Charlie Wilson. Like that level, I wasn't there. So I accepted that, understood that, but I still played. I still had the passion for it. And so as I matriculated through my college education, I began to take some of my core classes. And then when I got into my education classes, I was like, okay, this is pretty interesting. Like, I fell in love with the social science aspect of it. I fell in love with the relationship aspect of it. And when I did my observation hours and I did my student teaching, I was like, wow, this is actually like pretty cool. Also a fun fact, I kind of got hit with that entrepreneurship bug at the same time.
Okay.
So what I did was I tried to make the best of both worlds. So my senior year, technically for my major, what I had to do was a 5-year program, and I come out with a bachelor's and a master's in 5 years. So that 5th year, we have to do a grad assistantship. And most people in my role, they do it in the music department. I did it in the School of Business to try and make myself a little more well-rounded. Yeah. And so in that, I was like, at the time, I pledged a fraternity, and a lot of my big brothers and things like that, they come back on the yard, say, what's up? These dudes got corporate cards and everything. I want a corporate card, So I was like, all right, what can I do to get myself that corporate card? So I strategically put myself in a position to do that. Got in corporate America. It's going back a little while. It was Wachovia, not Wells Fargo, Wachovia.
I forgot it was even called.
See, you see? So I
Wow.
was the dude that when you came into the branch, you had to see me if you wanted to get a loan, if you wanted to open certain types of accounts. That was me. My name was on the office and everything. About 90 days in, I was bored to tears.
Yeah.
I mean, just come in, have a seat, open the account. I got to leverage no creativity. There was no opportunity to build relationships. And more importantly, it was not my calling.
Yep. It's truth.
So here I am. Now I go and put my resume back out there to see what kind of opportunities there are. Normally, for teaching positions, you fill out the application online. Something told me, call straight to downtown.
Someone.
I called, and the lady that picked up, she said, wouldn't you know it, that we actually do have an opening. Mind you, this is one of 5 positions in the entire district of 33,000 students.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you have to have it be known that person just walked out and we have an opening?
Wow.
I said, look at God.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so I went and did my I went ahead and put my 2 weeks in, killed the interview and everything. But here's what happened with that interview process. So it went well. They took me on a tour of the school. I noticed something. I pay attention to detail, you see. They took me to a part of the school where there was no students at that particular
nice
time.
part.
They
The
took
new
me.
addition, the newly remodeled.
Right. They took me to that. Okay.
The quiet part.
Yes. Keeping in mind, as I mentioned before, the person quit.
Yeah.
Right.
So in my mind, and importantly, I'm excited at this time. I'm like, yo, I'm about to start teaching. Oh, where are you about to start teaching? I tell them,
Ooh. Ryan, I know that life.
you teaching at that school with those kids. That's what I got.
Yep.
So that rang, it kind of stayed with me. So that first day, October 6th,
You was like, not
2006,
today.
I stepped in that and I said, not me. And I shut things down in there. I didn't have no discipline problems. I didn't have any types of referrals. I can count in my first 2 years of teaching how many referrals I had to write.
Wow.
But see, in that, my mentality was wrong. Because when I came in there with that iron fist, I shut down behavior issues, but I also shut down connection with my
Relationships.
students.
Yep.
Okay.
I shut down relationships. I shut down the opportunity for students to come to me, one of the few black male educators in that building when they had issues.
Yeah.
As sure as I'm sitting here today, when I think about the student opportunities and connections that I missed, it upsets me.
Yeah.
Because I know that somebody slipped through the cracks.
Wow. So let's
right
stay there.
Yeah.
Because there are some educators that's listening across the country and across the globe that hurt. You felt that.
I just got chills.
Right,
And
right.
I'm over here sweating
Right.
in this turtleneck, and I just
combo.
got chills.
Right.
Wow.
So they're catching what you said, and some of them initially was like, "That's it. I've been too personable. I need to come in with an iron fist."
Yeah.
But then conviction came in
Yeah.
when you said, "But not only did I shut down referrals and behavior issues, but I shut down that spirit, that creativity, that brilliance, that twinkle in their eye, that
Correct.
I zapped it." And so how? Let's talk about that balance. I'm
Yep.
sure you
Yep.
was wondering that same thing.
Yep.
As I'm listening, I'm questioning like, what's the balance? Because this is something that I could use the next time I do a professional development with the school. So
Yep.
let's talk about that balance that you have now.
That balance came with a rude awakening from a phone call. I got a phone call from a parent, one of my students, sweetest little girl, one of my sixth grade students, and a parent called and she said, "You know what? My daughter is scared in your classroom."
I know
And-
you felt sick.
Horrible.
Wow.
Absolutely horrible. My daughter is scared in your classroom. And here
I'm
I
just
am.
curious, black, white, Hispanic?
She was Hispanic.
Hispanic,
Yes.
okay.
And the sweetest little girl. And
And you out here scaring these babies.
I said, Shaun, we can't do this. Like,
Wow.
I mean, we've been sitting here talking for a few minutes, but y'all can tell that's not my personality.
Yeah.
Right.
I was trying to fit into a mold of who I thought I was supposed to be
Yeah.
for those kids.
Yeah.
And so at that time, that was an awakening that I needed to create balance.
Yeah.
And I use the analogy, see, a lot of times when I was growing as an educator, I also had a side hustle as a DJ. So I'm like teaching during the day and in these streets at night, pretty much. Like half the time I pull up to the school parking lot, I have 2 turntables in my trunk because I have to DJ the night after.
Right.
And so I use this analogy because it made sense to me. I was growing as a teacher and I was growing as a DJ at the same time. And if you think about the roles in each one, like I'm in a one-to-many environment, I'm a source of motivation, I'm making real-time decisions, I have to blend beats and songs, instrumentals and acapellas, and I have to keep the crowd motivated, engaged. Like
Controlling it.
I merged those two to kind of create a model and understand balance. My education career got started and I had too much constriction. But then you have the other end of that spectrum where you have no control and it's all chaos.
Yep.
So I had to figure out, all right, what's that middle ground for me? And I kind of tried to leverage several areas of understanding culture and helping my students achieve, relationship building, self-awareness, and creativity.
That's good.
And that is what kind of honed me in. And more importantly, it brought me back to who I was as a person. And I was able to leverage that in the classroom to connect naturally with my students instead of trying to fit into this mold of who I thought those kids needed. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
what did you end up finding worked? Because we know that kids need consistency, routine. They do need structure.
Yes.
Absolutely. They don't need an iron fist. And I'm not saying that against you. I'm saying me as well.
You have every right to say it because you're right.
But me as well. Like I've done it as well. I worked with those kids my first 3 years teaching as well. And I felt like I needed to walk in, and, you know, quite often teachers, like the saying is, don't smile for the first, you know, 2
Till
months.
November, October or something. Yes.
Yeah, don't smile. And that's not my personality at all. That is not me.
Look at that smile, y'all.
And it really isn't. And so I think that there are a lot of teachers out there that are probably wondering, okay, how do you make that work though when you do have kids that do tend to be the quote unquote difficult kids, and yet still make relationships, teach the curriculum, have structure, but also have fun in the classroom.
Yes. Yeah. It's a delicate balance, and that answer can vary a lot from person to person.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it's like if you think of it like a chemical equation, like when you switch certain levels of ingredients, certain types of ingredients, you're going to get a different formula every single time. So it's really understanding what your portion of that formula is versus what your student's portion of that is and how you can get that to mix chemically. But it's difficult because you're trying to blend things you can't physically see, like you're blending intangibles.
Yeah.
So really what I try to help a lot of educators that I have the privilege of working with is understanding several different things. Number one, starting with culture. A lot of times when we talk about culture and being culturally responsive, culturally relevant, we think of, all right, the language and lingo that my students use, the music that they listen to, the clothes that they wear, even some of the things that they may do or act. But what we fail to understand is that's only culture at the surface level.
Yeah.
And what we have not really peeled back the layers on enough consistently is to understand that we need to tap into culture below that. So what happens a lot of times, for example, is that there are certain rules that we operate off of that are unwritten. So I have a set of rules that I operate off of. My students have a set of rules that I operate off of. Because it's unwritten, a lot of times there's a clash, and we don't realize that. But when that clash comes, when you feel like I'm violating your culture or I feel like you're violating mine, it's emotion attached to it.
Yep.
Perfect example. The way that I grew up in my household, right? You didn't answer an adult, what? Like, if my mom called my name, Shaun, what? Bam, I'm on the floor.
Yep.
I'm talking about, yeah.
So that, to me, that's how I grew up. That's a part of my culture at what they call a below the surface level, shallow level of my culture. And so now growing up, I brought that into the classroom with me. And so I had a student one day that I called for, I needed something from her. She answered me, what? Triggered, set me off. Now, in most instances like that can be perceived as disrespect.
Yes.
What I had to do is I had to become self-aware enough to recognize that was she intending to be disrespectful, or did she just not have the same cultural rules and language that I used?
That's like ma'am and sir in the South. I have so many students, and my dad's from New York. And so my dad has been here long enough that he does use those terms now, but he talks to me a lot about that, about how when he first came down here, that wasn't always how you were raised necessarily up there, or at least like where he was. And I have plenty of students that I know that ma'am and sir is not in their vocabulary. They just weren't raised saying that. And that's part of their culture.
Yep.
And so quite often here in the South, you know, everyone's very transient these days. You know, you have kids coming in from California and Florida and New York, wherever. And so you have a kid that comes to you and they respond and you expect a ma'am or a sir at the end of it and you don't get it and you think that they're being disrespectful, but it's just not how they were raised.
And in those instances, what happens is now the power dynamic comes into play. Because as that educator, I'm the authority. And your perceived, my perceived disrespect, now I can write that up. Now we have discipline infractions. Now we have those kids who don't know how to behave because there's a miscommunication. It's not aligning of cultural expectations, but because I'm in charge, I get to say who's wrong and who's right.
Yeah, and you get that, yes, what, out of a teacher's voice. You know what I mean? And the second they say yes what?
Yes.
And I know that I've even done that, and I've had to realize, whoa.
Right.
They may not be taught that. Same thing with, I learned this in my ESOL class, but eye contact.
Yes.
Especially in like the Asian culture. It's actually respectful to not make eye contact with an elder. And so we expect them when they're talking to us to make eye contact with us, but we have to be aware of these cultural norms in different parts of the world, in different parts of the U.S., in different parts of the state.
Yes. It really starts with understanding where you fit on that spectrum, but then also understanding that really everything is about you're trying to establish a relationship and connection with your students. And there are a lot of things that we do to erode that relationship. When you actively can build a relationship and a strong connection with your students, now what you do as an educator is you put yourself in a position to push that student. Now you can have that structure. You can have that discipline. You can be strict. But you have to have grounds upon which you can be strict. And too many of us, we try to build a house on sand.
Yeah.
So establishing that connection, establishing that relationship, and essentially what you're letting that student do is give you the permission to push them.
Once you have that bridge built, that relationship built, I imagine too, every year you find different classes come in to where it's like some classes you can be a little bit more fun and goofy and whatever way, and then some it's like, I'm gonna give you a little bit, but I gotta keep y'all.
And that's the chemistry you were talking about.
Exactly.
It's different from class to class.
Yeah,
Exactly.
and being able to read it. I know I learned when I would go to schools and speak, there are some schools I go to, I can tell if the principal goes up and the principal's like, okay, everybody, be quiet, we've got a guest speaker, and they get quiet, I'm like, oh, I could tell all sorts of jokes and have a blast with them. But if the principal's up there for 5 minutes, please be quiet. Y'all are embarrassing me. Scooter, sit down. Rebecca, meet me in the office. And I'm just like, just give me the microphone. I know I got to go up there raw, like boom, 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 because I realize, you know what I'm saying? So it's, in a sense, it's like the same. It's like, you know what classes, how you can build with them. And so I think that's good for our listeners to receive and say, you know what, I need to kind of reevaluate my class and how my class flows and the systems that we have in place, because there were some classes where you could probably do your thing, and there's some which like I can't be too loose with you.
That's it.
You know what I'm saying?
That's it. Because
at the end of the day, I need you to gain this, but I'm first trying to capture this.
Facts.
Yeah.
That's 100% correct.
You got any stories like is there ever a almost what do we call it?
An almost breaking point.
Yeah, when you almost say, you know what, this teaching thing ain't for me.
Oh yeah. I had I had a student. So I think about
Sometimes
it and
you gotta
laugh,
just laugh.
but I wasn't laughing that day.
Okay, right.
Isn't that how it goes normally?
This young lady, she was having a bad day, and I'm trying to do everything that I have to do to kind of just maintain and just keep things moving forward, because sometimes it's just that period that it just gets away from you, and you're just trying to get to the end of it so that you can recalibrate the next day.
Right.
Yeah.
This wasn't going that way, and she got to the point where she was putting hands on other students, and mind you, this first grade, putting hands on other students.
Oh, no.
So now we have to be separated.
Yeah.
Now those hands turn to being put on me, and so I had to gather myself and let's go ahead. And once everything got calmed down and de-escalated, I spoke with the principal after that, and she just let me know what she did to kind of contact the parents and things like that. And I said, you know what? I said, she can't come back in my classroom no more. Like it's either her or me.
Wow.
One of those types of things. She can't come back in here no more. And what the principal let me know, she said, you know what? I understand exactly where you're coming from. You have every right to be upset. But she was like, let me tell you a little bit about this young lady.
Come on.
She told me about how she was dealing with homelessness, certain types of abuse. And she was like, what you're seeing is a manifestation of all those things that are going wrong in her life. And that shifted my paradigm about that young lady and some of the other ones that I've had, those students. And so having that context to put it in, it doesn't make the actions right, but it helps me to understand them a little bit more. And it gives me a reason, because I'm like, I didn't even do nothing to this young lady, but here she is, and she had hands for a first grader, you know. So but it allowed me, that was a point where I can laugh about it now, and I have not been in contact. I hope she's doing better, but she was struggling at that point in her life.
I was talking to my therapist earlier this week, and we were talking about.
Hold on, keep that. So to all you educators out there, come on, that's big, right?
Yeah.
So proud of you. To all of you out there, it's okay.
Go see someone, please.
Yeah,
Listen.
I got me a therapist and a mental health coach.
Yeah.
So and those of us that put out so much in the world, you got to protect your peace. And so I'm proud of you. I just had to highlight that.
And I'm just going to say this too, because as someone who fought this for a long time, if you need medication, that's okay too.
Yep.
It's okay. It can be temporary.
All right.
I'm just going to say that
There we
because
go.
I was one that was like, I don't need this for a long time.
Right.
But my therapist the other day said, it's not an excuse, it's an explanation. And I think that that's really what that was with that student. It's not an excuse.
Yes.
You know, and I think so often, and I know that this is my personality as well. I'm one that walks in, and if I'm late or whatever, I will tell someone why. And I'm like, this isn't an excuse. It's just letting you know, like, where I'm at right now. But I also want to hit on the fact that the first thing that you said when you started talking about this breaking point was you said she was having a bad day.
Yeah.
She was having a bad day. We have to stop and think about our kids and think about the fact that we all have bad days.
Sure.
This week was rough for me. I'm not going to lie. I had a really, really bad week. My dog ate one of my pills on Wednesday. I ran into something and knocked the side mirror off my car on Thursday.
Okay. Did you have one of those pills that your dog ate? You know what I'm saying?
That is a bad week.
Yeah.
My
And
goodness.
Friday, my student teacher was out and my co-teacher was out. And so I didn't have either of them. But then I also had to make sure that my co-teacher's other resource classes were taken care of for the rest of the day. And so my anxiety was through the roof by the time I got to Friday. And I told my kids, when I stepped into fourth period, the last class of the day, one of my kids was like, Miss Rod, how's your day been? And I said, to be honest, I need y'all to just chill for a second because my anxiety can't handle it right now.
Straight up. You want to know how my day was? Not today. You know what I'm saying? This is not the day.
And it wasn't and I flat out told them, I said, this is not me trying to get onto you. This is me letting you know where I'm at.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
if we're transparent with our kids,
they need it.
then they may have the comfort to know that they can be transparent with us and say, and granted, this was a first grader in your case, and they can't vocalize that.
Yep.
But middle school, high schoolers, they can vocalize, hey, I'm having a bad day. Can you just not with me today?
Right.
Yes.
Right.
And I've had students that have said that.
Right.
And I'm like, absolutely. Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
Yes, I'm going to nicely probe you maybe once or twice to get to work or come over and ask if you need help. But I'm not gonna like hound you like maybe normally I would. I'm not gonna, you know what I mean? Like I might, if they're really not feeling good, I might just honestly like leave you
let
be.
them be.
Let me alone. Yep.
Yeah.
Because I want kids to leave me be when I'm having a day like that.
Yes.
I
Facts.
needed it. And immediately when I said that on Friday, they were like, okay, Miss Rod, we're going to get to work.
Yep. But you know what that's evidence of, though? That's evidence of work putting in, connecting, and relating to those students. Because a teacher that does not have that foundation won't be successful in doing that.
Yeah.
You know, we have our days just like everybody else, like you already mentioned, and sometimes we build that emotional bank account. Sometimes we need to make a withdrawal on that.
Had to.
Absolutely. Yeah. And her kids love her. I always laugh because when she's here working at times, she'll have her kids like, in the classroom she's watching and the ones on Zoom, and she's quarterbacking all of that. You put that down. You went to the trash 5 minutes ago. Get back over here. You hit off, camera on, and I'm just like, wow. And they're like, okay. You know what I'm saying? Because that relationship is built.
Yep.
And so that's key.
When I wake up, and for me right now, because I have a 12-week-old puppy, it is waking up extra early so that I can play with her.
Mm-hmm.
And
give her what she needs because you're gone most of the day.
Yes. But it also gives me what I need too, because she gives me life right now.
Yes.
And so for me, that is how I start out my mornings best, because also I know that when I don't wake up early to spend time with her, well, both of the dogs, but especially the baby, I feel like I'm constantly thinking about her throughout the day. Is she okay? Even though I have a dog walker still. And then I feel like in the mornings I still need to spend time with her. So then that does put me behind for the rest of my day. And then I feel like I'm rushing throughout the day. So I have learned to be a morning person. I was never a morning person.
You need that, though.
Same here.
You need that. I tell them discipline. You got to just be more. Teachers are like, but how? How? I'm like, man, I know too many amazing educators who do the most in their community, in their schools, and they got 4 kids, and they're very active. We've all been blessed with 24 hours a day. It's just how do we manage it and be disciplined? And we've got to set boundaries. We've got to say, husband, don't touch me. Wife, don't touch me. Kids, leave me alone. This is my time to woosah, so I can have time for me. And then I get up in the morning and do what it is I got to do.
Yep.
So, 2 more questions for you.
Yep.
All right.
I'm curious.
Yes.
If you
Are you
could
gonna
change,
ask? Yes.
if
This
you
is
could
what I was
change
gonna ask.
anything about the educational system, if the new administration called me and Tori in and said, Tori, what do you have? I'd be like, man, you need Dr. Woodly. And they said, okay, what would you change? If it was one thing you could change about the education system today, what would it be?
That's difficult to narrow that down. So, because one side of me just jumps out to where the money resides. Just put some more in my bank account. Put some more in my bank account.
Our producer Ryan, teacher for 15 years, he like, let's go.
Where the money resides.
That's how I feel. They gave us that $1,000, and I'm like, you know what? It's not enough. But
Let's do this weekly.
thank you. I'll take it for right now. You could keep bringing it, but I'll take it for now.
Right.
But something that I feel can have a systemic impact is to really remove the whitewashed curriculum that we're all taught. Because it was one of the most jarring things that I really came to find out as I grew in this, and just becoming a researcher and understanding education. It wasn't built for us.
Yeah.
And we consistently operate and we keep the cycle going of teaching things that put our black and brown students behind the 8 ball. We don't teach them, for example, most black history programs, schools, if they even celebrate it, it starts with struggle. Struggle is the pervasive narrative for the entire 15 or 20 days of the month that it is discussed. Struggle. We don't talk about the ancient kings and queens that are in our bloodline. We don't talk about that. It's a pervasive narrative of struggle, and that's what they're being fed, and that weighs on the subconscious, and then we go out and teach it again.
Yeah, and they hit you with the classic Rosa Parks, Dr. King, Malcolm X.
But there's so much more.
So much more.
I read Between the World and Me, and that for me was really eye-opening to hear the way that he talked about what the education system was to him, but then also talking about that ancient bloodline. And my first thought was Wakanda, honestly. And the fact that they're really not that the actual country of Wakanda is real, but the fact that there have been so many things that black and brown people have created. That they have run. You know, you want to talk about Black Wall Street. When is that talked about?
It's not.
I saw something on Amplify Black Voices. It's a hashtag that I follow on Instagram. And they talked about, Seneca Village in New York, and how it was a city where Central Park was. Is that correct? And then it was,
I know what you're talking about.
And then it was completely torn down for Central Park to be put there, apparently. And yet those aren't things that we talk about, just like how Black Wall Street isn't talked about. And all we want to talk about, you're right, is the struggle, about the slavery, about, sharecropping and blah, blah, blah. But yet there's so much more.
Yeah.
I mean, same thing with the Hispanic side of things.
Yes.
The fact that people think, and the way we celebrate Cinco de Mayo, first off.
Listen.
Yeah, that's.
And second,
Could you imagine if we celebrated Black History Day like that?
Yeah.
Let me not even not stereotype.
but for real though, and like
so
people
problematic.
don't understand
Yeah.
even what Cinco de Mayo is. It's not the Mexican Independence Day, people. So why do we celebrate it like it is? Because Mexico doesn't celebrate it like that, and it's so frustrating.
Wow.
The way that we celebrate Thanksgiving.
Oh yeah, I've always wondered how the indigenous people, man, the Native Americans, like how that's got to be like a brutal
Slap in the face.
Slap in the face.
Every single year.
Every single year.
Let's celebrate it.
Yeah.
That's
Where we all sit around at a big old table that,
we would like it to have been like that.
Yeah, but that's not reality. And so we want to sit here and take these essentially like the Grimm's brothers stories and turn them into something Walt Disney.
Yes.
And that's not reality.
Yeah. And in order for our country to heal, we've got to pull the bandage off and let's let some air get into that wound.
Yeah.
And really have this conversation. And I believe it's the responsibility of the educators. So let me just speak to you all, because we might not have the bandwidth or the clout right now. We will soon, you know what I'm saying? We ain't changing no legislation right now. Yet. But now you have the responsibility to read some of the books that Tori suggests to you, to do those extra things, to educate your students, to let them know, what they should expect and be able to expand their horizons.
Yeah.
And my daughter's school, her teacher, they showed the kids Hidden Figures, and I could appreciate that.
So good.
And she's only in second grade.
So
but she's
good.
like, let me just show you something different, because this is something that you might not see. She probably realized she didn't have the bandwidth to really break it down, but she's like, as a class, we're going to just watch this movie. And so I think that's encouraging to see. And so I feel you. For you, it's like a part of me is like, hey, they need to be paid more. But the other part is just like, hey, let's make sure, let's stop with the whitewashed curriculum.
Yes.
Let's show the beautiful colors of our country. And really embrace where we are and the contributions that Black and brown people have had, and let's really have that full conversation.
And until then, until that curriculum is changed, you're right. As educators, we have the ability to still change that narrative and to still bring in color into our classroom. We are watching, we have to eat lunch in our classrooms right now. And so I show something G-rated during lunch. And I started with Boy Meets World because it was one of my favorite shows growing up.
I was going to say Boys in the Hood. I was about to say, let's go.
It's a good one too, but not G-rated.
Right.
But I have started showing my kids Proud Family. And we are on the episode where they celebrate, there's a homeless family, and they celebrate Kwanzaa. And then we're getting ready to get to season 1, episode 14, which is the Black History Month one. And good. I am so excited that we are not watching a TV show that is all about white people.
Right.
Because most of my kids in my classroom are not white.
Yeah. Yep.
And see, you did that was something that you could control.
Yes, it's small, it's tiny.
Right.
But they're able to see like these kids didn't even know what the Proud Family was because it's from my generation, not from theirs. And I get that.
Right.
But let's be honest, there's not enough Disney or any kind of like kids TV shows, movies where you've got people of color. There is not a Hispanic Disney princess, and it is a crime.
You're right.
Yep.
You're right.
I have fought with that, and it's something that I've worked through recently, realizing no wonder I grew up wanting to be on the white side of, because I'm half white, half Hispanic. No wonder I pushed my Hispanic side to the family, family to the side. Like, no wonder.
And think about this, though. If you're talking about just those little things, most, me included, but most people of color that I know, have not consistently had good experiences with education. You're talking about 13 years straight.
Yep.
That sparse teachers that you may like. Sparse experiences where you've seen yourself represented.
Yep.
So imagine going 13 years straight and being taught, experiencing, and living things that just don't connect with you.
Yep.
And we wonder why the dropout rate is so high. That's one aspect of it.
Yeah.
This is like a part 2. We need to come back and have
I agree.
And have a part 2.
We do need to have more of a conversation about this,
is
I
rich.
feel like.
And for our faithful viewers and listeners, our tribe of next level teachers that's like really rocking with us on a regular basis, we do have these conversations often. Like we do want to challenge, we do want to push the envelope, we do want to go to the next level, but these are conversations that have to be had so that progress can really take place. And we challenge all of you listening and watching to do what you can. Like when we create our curriculum, Tori, it's very diverse.
It is. I love it.
You know what I'm saying? 60% of the people in our SEL K through 12 curriculum are people of color.
Nice.
Probably closer to 70%.
Yeah.
Nice.
You know what I'm saying? It's people of color. You know what I'm saying? And so, and that is something that we pride ourselves on because representation, like Tori said, just matters.
It does.
All right. Were you ready for rapid fire?
Hit me with it.
Lightning
Let's
round.
do this.
Get ready.
All right. So,
60 seconds.
yeah, I'm going to need that time.
Yeah, there we
and
go.
don't get any of them wrong.
Okay.
I
Okay.
got a button I hit.
And it just, you
The
fall
floor
right
just
through.
opens up. Yeah, let's have some fun.
Let's do it.
All right, here
Let's
we
go.
go. On a scale of 1 to 10, how good are you at keeping secrets?
10.
Ooh,
Oh,
my man.
wow. Favorite day of the week?
Monday.
Okay. Invisibility or super strength?
Super strength.
Okay. Milk or dark chocolate?
Milk chocolate.
Oh, okay. That's fine. Favorite city in the U.S. besides the one you live in?
New York.
I knew that was coming, yeah.
First celebrity crush?
Ooh, probably Laura from Family Matters.
Current celebrity crush?
Ooh, shoot, man.
Because you locked in with your wife.
Yeah, my wife.
You know, let me help you out
That's
there.
the celebrity in my life.
Hey, let's go.
Shout out to you, babe.
Yeah, that's so
If
good.
you were really hungry, would you eat a bug?
Hell, heck no. Excuse me, I'm so
Hell to
sorry.
the heck no. 33 seconds.
All right, say a word in Spanish.
Hola.
Hola.
Y adios.
My man. Hey, tell the people how they can connect with you, man.
Absolutely.
And let's talk about the Teach, Hustle, Inspire real quick.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
most definitely.
Yeah,
Teach, Hustle,
yeah.
Inspire is just, it's an icon that brings us all together. And I didn't choose these words, randomly, like they all have meaning. So the Teach is about how we unlock intellectual treasure. How do we get our students from where they are to where they need to be? The hustle, see, that's my music side, the 90s bad boy. It's about the can't stop learning, won't stop learning. How are we growing?
Come on.
And the Inspire, spreading love and light.
I love it.
I love it. Where
That's
can
so
they
good.
find the merch?
Find everything teachhustleinspire.com. You can find me, Instagram, Twitter, under the hashtag Teach Hustle Inspire. I'll come right up.
Awesome.
TeachHustleInspire.com.
Yes.
And at Teach Hustle Inspire.
At Teach Hustle Inspire.
Man,
Shaun
Mr.
Wood-
Dr. Shaun Woodley,
Yep.
man, we appreciate
Thank
you hanging
y'all
out
Thank you
with
so
us,
much.
man.
I
Yes,
appreciate
it
y'all.
has been a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank y'all.
Thank
Yeah.
you for not only just inspiring your kids
Yeah.
and realizing the change that you needed to make
Yeah.
within yourself and within your classroom, but also for realizing that you could make a difference with other teachers, which
Yes.
is exponentially
Yes.
making a difference.
Next
Yes.
level.
I love that.
I appreciate
man.
y'all sharing your platform with me. I do not take this lightly.
Absolutely.
Thank y'all. Thank
we
y'all so
appreciate
much.
you hanging out with us. And we appreciate y'all for leaving us a 5-star review.
Yep.
Show us some love.
Yep.
And we'll see y'all next week.
Bye, guys.
Peace.